Welcome to On the Record. In the run-up to the August primary, we're going to introduce you to the candidates you'll be seeing on the ballot. Now, to do that, we'll be hosting a series of candidate forums right here. Before we begin, let's go over the rules. Each candidate was provided the list of questions, which we'll get to in just a moment. They'll have 1 minute to answer those questions. Seating arrangements were determined by the order that they will appear on the ballot. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes at the beginning to introduce themselves, then 2 minutes at the end as well. With that in mind, let's get started. Our guests for this episode are Ryan Hagedorn and Brendan Kelly, candidates for the 127th Missouri House District. Gentlemen, thank you both for going on the record with us. 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. Ryan, let's begin with you.
Yes, well, first, thank you for having me on. This is so exciting, so cool. And I'm a Christian, a patriot, a farmer, and I felt called to run for office after the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I went out to State Farm Stadium, Glendale, Arizona, and I saw the memorial where President Trump spoke, and there were so many other people there that spoke, Erica Kirk, of course, and I had nothing short of a spiritual experience there, and I felt called by God to return to politics. I'd worked previously in politics in Florida, and I decided to run ultimately. At first I thought about maybe I should create a talk show, maybe I should try to create an organization like a Turning Point USA, but I ultimately decided upon that I wanted to actually run for office. And so I decided to run, and it's been amazing ever since. I've met so many amazing people. I've worked hard, I've had a lot of fun, and I've really helped, I think, move the ball forward on the issues, especially in terms of data centers. I was the first candidate for statewide office which proposed a statewide moratorium for data centers, and that idea has since gained tremendous traction. And so I'm very, very encouraged with the progress we've made thus far. We've got a lot of momentum going into the August 4th primary, and I just want to stay positive, stay on message, stay focused on the issues, and that is we want to cut taxes, support veterans, defend the Second Amendment, support farmers, and fight for unborn life. Life begins at conception with no exceptions, and that's very important. I'm a strong no on Amendment 5. I've been endorsed by Senator Mike Moon, and very importantly, I've refused all lobbyist special interest in PAC money, because when you accept their money, that money comes with strings attached, and I want to own my own vote and my own voice, and for that reason, I've rejected all lobbyist money, and that's why I feel called to represent our district, because I believe I'm the hardest working candidate for the race, and I haven't sold out. I've stayed true to my principles, and yeah, let's keep working hard, let's keep having fun, and let's fight for the people of District 127. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brendan, 2 minutes.
So excited to be here. My name is Brendan Kelly. I'm a 6th generation Southwest Missourian. This is truly my home. My passion is truly serving the community and serving others. We have a lot of politicians in Jefferson City, and I'm vowed to be a servant leader there up at Jeff City and here at home. My wife and I, after Charlie Kirk's tragic death, we heard so many cries of heartache, of being just lost and wanting help, wanting a place to store that hurt. My wife and I led a vigil in Lamar. We had a couple hundred people show up, and it was truly a spiritual experience. We had a couple people rededicate their lives to the Lord. It was just an amazing night. And I have a huge heart to continue things like that. When they had the government shut down just a few months ago, my wife and I had another call to action, to helping people, to serving people, and we did a soup supper. And we made sure that every single county in our district knew if they were hungry, we would bring them meals. We would drive as far as it took to feed them. I had a gentleman that night at the soup supper who said, without you taking action, I would have had maybe some saltines for dinner. And instead of that, we made sure they had chili, they had soup, they had my mom's famous cookies, and we were able to serve the community, and we gave out hundreds of meals. Service is a hard thing to see in Jeff City. We have lots of politicians, and I'm committed to serving the people. Now, I'm also up there to vote for things that matter. I'm the only candidate endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. I have an AQ rating with the NRA. I have a passion for conservative values. I want to bring jobs to our community. So much of our district is impoverished, and I want to be a voice for the voiceless. I'd be honored for your vote on August 4th, and looking forward to being on the record.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, both. With introductions out of the way, we'll move now to the question phase. Ryan, we're going to begin with you. Where do you stand on data center development in Missouri?
Yes, that's a great question, Jeremiah. And my big thing is let's put a pause on data center development in Missouri. And again, that's why I introduced my statewide moratorium. I called it my AI Data Center Candidate Moratorium Pledge, where I try to get other candidates to sign my Data Center Moratorium Pledge, promising that in the next legislative session, they would be willing to support a pause, a 2-year pause on data center construction in Missouri. And that's because we have over 6,000 data centers in the US. That's more than 10 times the amount which China has, more than 10 times the amount of our next closest competitor. And so for these reasons and so many more, let's put a pause on data center construction and let's invest our finite resources into our people, our communities, our livestock, and our schools, our future generations. And so we don't want to see electrical rates go up. We don't want to see our water resources be plundered. It belongs to farmers, not foreign developers. And yeah, let's protect Missouri. Missouri is a great state as it is now, and let's keep it free from economic development and plunder. That's what I have to say about data center development. Thank you.
And Brendan, the same question for you. Where do you stand on data center development in Missouri?
Yes, sir. I think data centers are one of the biggest concerns that our constituents have. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of twisted facts on both sides of the aisle. I believe we need to make sure that if a data center is going to come into Missouri, which they are, they're already some of the biggest investments in Missouri history that have been proposed in Montgomery County and other areas, we have to protect people. We have to make sure that we're not paying for Amazon's electric bill. We're not paying for their water bill. They're not going to get people sick. I believe strongly that we can create strongholds with statute, regulation, and laws to protect people while still being open for business. Donald Trump just a couple days ago said they're liquid gold. I believe Missouri can have a seat at the table while still making sure that our district, which is a primarily rural agriculture district, can stay that way. I'm committed to protecting Southwest Missourians while still making sure that we can bring jobs and prosperity to our community.
All right, thank you both, gentlemen. Let's move on. Question 2, Brendan, we'll begin with you. Should Missouri add restrictions to the usage of artificial intelligence?
It's kind of a new frontier, and there's not really any laws or regulation on the books, and I think we have to have laws and regulations on the book to protect people, to protect children, to protect the elderly. I have so many elderly people who tell me about how they get scam calls on their phones, their landlines, and sometimes it'll sound like their neighbor or their family member because it's AI, and we have to make sure we protect that. There was a law, an act passed just a couple months ago, Evans Voice Act. It was a gentleman who was in high school, and some deep fakes made him feel like his life was over, and he ultimately ended his life. And Evans Law is going to make sure that children like that are protected. And I want to make sure that Evans Law can be expanded to protect people from artificial intelligence and the risks and the nuances of it.
Thank you, sir. Ryan, same question for you. Should Missouri add restrictions to the usage of artificial intelligence?
The answer is absolutely yes, Jeremiah, because we do need some regulation on artificial intelligence, and there are numerous reasons why. And first, I think that the deceit of elderly is a very concerning issue, because many older folks are not able to discern what is reality and what is not. However, in just a few years, maybe a few months even, everybody is not going to be able to discern what is an AI video and what is reality. And so we have to be proactive. We don't want to be reactive. And let's get ahead of this issue before it gets ahead of us. And then also child CSAM abuse material. That's very important because that has to be totally outlawed, and any intermingling of artificial intelligence with that should be treated as a real thing, and there should be arrests and prosecution immediately upon that. And we have to, as a society, we have to ask ourselves, do we want AI to control us, or do we want to control AI? And so that's why I'm all for, we have to get the proper regulation and infrastructure in place, and we do need some councils and committees on educated people to help us with that.
All right, thank you both, gentlemen. Ryan, question number 3 for you. Where do you stand on the video slot machines that have appeared in gas stations, bars, and other places, and the Attorney General's efforts in regards to those?
Yes, well, I want to give a major shout out and compliment to Attorney General Catherine Hanaway, because I strongly support her decision on that, and I don't like to see gambling. I'm against gambling, and that her work in curtailing that effort, she deserves a lot of praise and commendation for that, because I had lots of friends. I'd go into the local gas station and I'd see friends of mine, and they'd work all day, and then I'd see them over on the video lottery slot machines and at the terminals, and they would be spending their day's work on those terminals. and that's just not right. As a Christian, I oppose gambling. It is a vice. We want to get rid of it. And so I think we are better off as a society without those things being very ubiquitous. It's one thing for a casino to be in a far-off place or on a riverboat, something like that, but if you have gas stations which have these highly addictive machines and terminals, it's a very bad idea. I'm very proud of Attorney General Catherine Hanaway's decision on that issue.
Thank you, sir. Brendan, same question for you. Where do you stand on the video slot machines that have appeared in gas stations, bars, and other places, and the Attorney General's efforts in regards to those?
I completely agree with my opponent. I think he nailed it on the head. Catherine Hanaway did a fantastic job advocating for children, advocating for the less fortunate who were kind of like drawn into them. I remember going to gas stations all over the place, and my wife and I would kind of feel uncomfortable, a little queasy by just seeing people just sitting there for hours and hours, or they'll go to bars and they'll do it for hours and hours. And I think it was kind of a black mark on our state. You'd have visitors who would come into the state of Missouri and they'd walk in a Casey's or a different type of gas station, and you just see people just sitting there and they'd just be gambling. And I think we can bring some dignity back to our state. As a strong Christian, I oppose gambling. I think we need to get, like my opponent said, if they're in a casino or something far off where they're a little more like, if you want to go take a weekend trip, that's your prerogative. But in our backyard and our gas stations and things, I just don't think that's right for Missouri. So I strongly support Catherine Hanaway. I completely agree with my opponent. And let's get those VLTs out like we have, and let's keep them out because they're breaking the law.
All right, thank you both. Gentlemen, Brendan, next question for you. The Missouri's, this question was actually intended for another episode. We'll move on to the next question. Should Missouri go back to a presidential preference primary?
I completely agree that we should go back to a preference primary, presidential preference primary. I think we should move it to Super Tuesday. I think that we will see a huge influx of presidential candidates coming to Missouri and trying to be involved in the primary process. I had the opportunity when we had caucuses for the last presidential election of actually being an advocate for Trump and speaking in front of my community and saying Trump would be a great president. We need to continue making him be our next president. But I think it was really an unfair process for a lot of the Missourians who weren't able to join the caucus and have their voice heard. And I think a primary, going back to what we used to have, moving it to Super Tuesday would let more Missourians have a voice and be able to pick who the next leader of the Republican Party is. And I think that's essentially important. It will cost extra money, but I think that cost is worth it.
Ryan, same question for you. Should Missouri move back to a presidential preference primary?
Absolutely. The answer is 100% yes. And the cost is $9 million to do so. I do think that is very appropriate and would be a good use of state funds to do so, because it's all about giving the people a voice. We have to let the people be heard, and we don't want closed room meetings where the public is not allowed in to influence their decision. What we want to have is the public, the people, making the decision on who their president is going to be. And I'm opposed to any sort of thing, any deal where the establishment or a select group of people is picking someone or deciding upon the vote for an entire state, an entire party, on who is going to be our choice for president. The people should be able to make that decision. And that's why we have to make it as transparent and open to the public and available to them as possible. And that's true for an even broader spectrum of issues, but it's especially true for that. We don't want the establishment making the decision. We want the people to make the decision. And this is what we have to do in order to have the freest possible state that we can.
All right, thank you both, gentlemen. Now to the question we missed just a moment ago, and Ryan, we'll start with you. The budget is expected to be a major focus in the upcoming session. What are your thoughts on the best practices for crafting Missouri's budget?
Yes, we do have to have a balanced budget, and Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick, he's actually raised the alarm on this issue. And he's saying that, hey, we're going to have a deficit if some serious cuts aren't made. And so we do have to cut spending. Some people are saying that we have to raise taxes, not lower them, and I'm against that. As a conservative, we have to cut taxes. Amendment 5 is a plan which will actually intend to increase the tax revenue. It's not revenue neutral, as some people say, and that's why I'm very concerned about Amendment 5. I'm a strong no on Amendment 5, but we have to cut spending. I do think it'd be a good idea if we just raise the tax on traditional casinos and riverboat gambling by just 10 percentage points. That would give the state an extra $1 billion in 4 to 6 years. And so I think that'd be a better idea to raise taxes on traditional gambling. That'd be a good way to bring in revenue. And we have to cut spending. Special interest and lobbyist pet projects, they have to be eliminated. eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse, and institute a Missouri Doge. We have to do it and have to do it quick.
Brendan, same question for you. The budget is expected to be a major focus this upcoming session. What are your thoughts on the best practice for crafting Missouri's budget?
Missouri needs to do the same practice that you and I do at the dinner table. We balance our budget. We look at what we have to pay for. For the state, we have to pay for our schools, we have to pay for our prisons, we have to help the elderly, the children. We have the infrastructure that we have to invest in. Everything else, if it's fat, we have to learn to cut it. We have to say no to federal dollars that aren't going to be beneficial for us. Our budget is $50 billion. We have a balanced budget amendment constitutionally, where if we're not taking from surplus, it has to be a balanced budget. We need to take our surplus that we still have and say we're not going to touch it. That is our savings. It's kind of like the Dave Ramsey $1,000 emergency fund. Do not touch that. Let's cut taxes. Let's give money back to the people. Let them spend the money because they know how to spend that better than the government does. And let's focus on the core issues. Let's fully fund education. Let's fully fund our roads and bridges. Let's make our systems stronger. But let's get rid of the pet projects. Let's get rid of the fat that we don't need.
Gentlemen, thank you both for participating in the forum. As promised, we'll now give each candidate 2 minutes here at the closing. Brendan, we'll begin with you.
This is my home. I have loved growing up here my entire life, and I would be honored to serve it. If I'm not elected on August 4th, I will continue to serve this beautiful Southwest Missouri. I'd be honored for your vote, and I think I'm the principal local roots conservative that we need up in Jefferson City. But it is truly up to you. This community is struggling. We have been stagnant for so long. My family, we run a Greenfield Thanksgiving where we fed over 3,000 people in the past 10 years. And I've watched so many people who are struggling to keep the lights on, who are struggling to pay the bills. And we have to bring change to this state. And I promise, if elected into Jefferson City, that I will fight for change. I will fight to make our state be the freest, the most conservative, the most prosperous state in the Union. It takes change, but I'm willing to fight for that change. I'm willing to fight for you up here, Jefferson City.
All right. Ryan, 2 minutes.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Change is the key word, and we do need change. We need representative change here in our district, and it is time for new leadership. And what I intend to do, what I think I can be most effective in doing in Jefferson City, is holding the establishment accountable, because I don't know any lobbyists in Jeff City. I've said no to all of their money, and what I want to go to Jeff City is to go there and to expose who the problem makers are. Why can't we make Missouri the most conservative state in the country? There's no reason why we can't, because we have the trifecta. We have a supermajority Republican legislature and also the governorship, and then we should have the judiciary also. So there's no reason why we can't be the best of the best, why we can't be a Florida in the Midwest. And so, but it's because of, frankly, corruption. And as I say, corruption is the biggest problem in our state. We have to clean up Jefferson City. I'm going there to reject the establishment. I've rejected the establishment already. And we have to call out politicians when they take money from people they shouldn't take money from, because at the end of the day, the money does come with strings attached, and that is the biggest issue. That is the issue of the campaign, is the acceptance of lobbyist money. Again, I've refused all of it. That's how I'm able to have these very principled stances on issues like data centers, on issues like Amendment 5, on so many other issues, because what's most important is we want to reindustrialize and revitalize rural Missouri, Southwest Missouri, and we want to bring jobs and manufacturing back to Lamar, Greenfield, City of Jasper, Sarcoxie, and Stockton, and so many other places. And in order to do this, we have to fight for ourselves. We don't need a yes man. We don't need a follower. We need a leader who's going to fight and not let ourselves be bullied by St. Louis and Kansas City, which they want to do. And of course, you look at who holds the strings in the Republican establishment. It is Kansas City and St. Louis area legislators. I'm going there to fight for the people of District 127 and to work hard and to represent our interests in the big city, in the capital. Thank you.
Thank you both gentlemen for being with us. That does conclude this candidate forum. Again, Ryan Hagedorn, Brendan Kelly will appear on the ballot in the 127th District for the Missouri House. Once again, gentlemen, thank you both for going on the record with us.